Well, hot on the heels of that month-long trip in Iraq, Luca Menget is here with me in the studio. Luca, many thanks for joining us. Let's start with Fallujah, a town synonymous in the minds of many with violence. Tell us what you saw there.
Well, Fallujah is a very good example of what happened in Iraq during 5 years and what could happen now. Fallujah, I've seen all the kinds of battles, civil war, war against the Americans, and a war for the control of the city. But what is happening now in Fallujah is this sharing of power between the two brothers. One is in the police, the other one is the boss of the awakening. And these two people have very strong asking to the Iraqi government and the American forces. They say, what we saw at the end of the story, they say, we want to get back into power in Baghdad and Fallujah. Basically, we want to be part of the security of the country, which means that the awakening forces in Fallujah will have to integrate the Iraqi army or police forces, and that they also want a sharing of the power inside Baghdad. As you know, the government, the Iraqi government, is mainly controlled by the Shias, and these people, they want their part of the power in Iraq. If they don't have that, they will turn their weapons back against the Americans and against the Shias.
Well, does that spell the end of the road then for Shia militants such as Muqtada al-Sadr, who really was a thorn in the side of the coalition forces? Has he lost a lot of his power base as a result of that?
No, well, they're watching at each other a lot. There is a ceasefire since last August from the side of Muqtada al-Sadr, the Mahdi army. He says for 6 months. So the end of this ceasefire is for now. Will Muqtada al-Sadr continue the ceasefire? That's a huge question. Apparently, he's going to pursue the ceasefire. But Muqtada al-Sadr and all the Shias are also watching what is going on the awakening side. What are doing the al-Sahwa? Are they ready to share the power? Nobody knows exactly. In Iraq, there is a huge sense that, you know, the fire is under the dust. And for the moment, it's a little bit less violent than it was a few months ago. But it could be violence spreading all over the country again very quickly.
Well, you mentioned the awakening. Now, they're made up of Sunni members and they're helping the American forces to fight the threat of al-Qaeda. How successful has that been?
Well, it's a success. It was not an American idea at the beginning. It was an Iraqi idea. Some of these people, as we saw in the story, for example, the policeman of Fallujah, the older brother, he was very upset when the Al-Qaeda fighters killed his brother. And basically, Al-Qaeda was too violent. It was something like random killings, suicide bombings in marketplaces. All these Sunni people in Fallujah, Baghdad, and also in other provinces like Diyala said, we're fed up with this violence and we want to be part of the power. So they decided they hate the Americans, the American occupation. But they say, okay, we need to share the power for a while, and we need to go back in Baghdad and to be in charge of the country. They want to be part of the future of the country. So it's something that worked for a while. It's working, even if Al-Qaeda is still trying to kill all the awakening leaders. Every week in Iraq there is an awakening leader killed in a suicide attack or in a killing in the streets. So the war between Sunnis, which is the war between Al-Qaeda and the awakening, is not finished at all.
How soon, in your view, will it be before the coalition forces can get out of Iraq altogether and leave the security of the country up to Iraqis?
Nobody knows. And when you hear what the General Petraeus is saying, the commander-in-chief of the US forces in Iraq, they don't know. There's one absolutely sure thing, which is that the American elections won't change anything on the ground in Iraq. Everybody knows that even if Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or John McCain are saying we want to change the schedule, it's absolutely impossible. The Iraqi stability needs a huge amount of American troops, because a civil war between Iraqis would be much bigger and much more important. So they can't withdraw, but they know that they are in the country for 10 or 15 years. That's the basic line. Then there will be some change between a few brigades coming back home and other brigades going back in Iraq. but it's a game. It's a political game to say that the US troops will withdraw.
Luca Menget, many thanks for bringing us that fascinating report from Iraq. This has been Reporters, Iraq 5 years on. If you would like to see any of those reports that Luca carried out in Iraq, once again, do go to our website, www.france24.com.